Well, remember the Sony Walkman, the nifty portable cassette player, was the gadget to have in the 1980s. I don't want to show my age, but I did have one. It was just one of a string of iconic designs released by the Japanese electronics giant. Well, fast forward to 2012, and the company is now bleeding $3 billion a year. The question now is, for all its continued efforts, does Sony have what it takes to be cool again?
Oh, Sony, what happened to you? You used to be so cool. The original Walkman design blew minds in the 80s, and the flat-screen Trinitron sets were top sellers. Now Sony is bleeding $3 billion a year. Sure, the yen strength isn't helping, but it's also because your products are too little for too much, says business analyst Pelham Smithers.
So what have they got to do? They've got to get their pricing in line with their costs, and they've got to do it with a product they can sell. And that's quite a difficult combination to do.
In 2012, though, a chance, perhaps, to turn it around. Sir Stringer is out, and Kazuo Hirei is in. So how can Hirei, described as a methodical details guy, help Sony get its groove back? The obvious model, Apple, with its massive shopper queues, masterful launch events, and marketing muscle. Well, you might not have noticed, but Sony's been trying to replicate Apple's model for years. They've sold off factory lines to shift from device fabrication, like Samsung, to device design. And they have got a few things right. Its future-forward Next cameras have stolen market share from traditional camera makers. The PlayStation family, including the new Vita handheld, aren't just about gaming. Hirei tapped its online network backbone to sell the Sony Pictures film library directly to gamers.
You think I'm licked? You all think I'm licked? Well, I'm not licked. And I'm going to stay right here and fight for this lost cause.
But while they have come up with some top-end hardware designs, their software fails to tie it all together, says Tokyo-based tech blogger Jeff Blagden.
I'd like to see Sony maybe polish up their product a little bit more before they put it out there and give the consumer the idea that there's a cohesive kind of Sony branded bubble that they're living in, and Sony's, taking care of them.
Instead, we get duds like this little oddity, the new Walkman Z. It looks like a mobile, but it ain't. Seriously, in 2012, their actual mobiles, which could be part of the PlayStation ecosystem, instead rely on the Android OS and ho-hum tech specs. Then we have the Sony TVs, hardly distinguishable from LG or Samsung, except for their price tag. With its movie studio, gaming business, and array of consumer electronics, Sony arguably has a stronger case for an interoperating ecosystem than Apple. But the Japanese firm's weakness in delivering a compelling user experience means it will have to work twice as hard to regain its mantle with consumers.
If you look at people who are over 25, they still have that really fond memory of Sony, and they really associate Sony with quality and with durability and with this kind of futuristic aesthetic. I think that they could absolutely get that club back.
The challenge then for Hirei is not just to turn Sony around, but to do it before the company loses the next generation of electronics buyers.